My name is Gary. I want to welcome you to another episode of Mindset Growth Podcast. I have Heather, my co-host, here with me.
Good morning.
Good morning, Heather. How are you doing on this lovely morning?
I'm running a little behind
all
morning. Yeah. Yep.
It's been a struggle, huh?
It has been.
All this rain we're getting.
Yep.
You know, one of the things that's so interesting is, it's always so dry and we need rain. Mm-hmm. And then when it starts, it's always like at the wrong time.
It's been nonstop. It's been nonstop here,
I know.
though.
It's like spring sports for kids and everything's been a struggle to get in with all of the rain. So
trying to get my son to practice, it's canceled all the time. I'm like, well, we've got a game coming up here pretty soon. We'll see what we get, but I'm not expecting too much.
Everybody's got the same situation to deal with, I guess.
Yeah.
Hey, let's bring in our guest, Luke Moore. Luke, I am excited to have you on this podcast and learn a little bit more about you in a couple aspects. And I think one of the things that inspired me about your story is just when I read some of your bio on your LinkedIn page, some of the things that you've gone through in life and how you've persevered. And I want to learn a little bit more about that. But if you would just... tell us a little bit about how you grew up and about yourself to introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. Luke Moore. I grew up in Fort Dodge, Iowa. Grew up in a construction family. My family owned asphalt plants and dirt work. So they did some development. So as soon as you were able to run a mower at 7, 8 years old, you were mowing full time when I wasn't in baseball. So it was just kind of, I was running dozers, excavators at full time at 14 when I wasn't in baseball. You were part of the team as soon as you were able to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you enjoy though, or you look back? Did that help shape some of your work ethics and things you have today?
Oh yeah, absolutely. When I turned 16, I was on an asphalt paving crews full time. I was just one of the laborers. So all my friends were enjoying their summers. I was out working 80, 90 hours a week on the highway or parking lots. So actually I hated it at the time because I was so jealous of my friends at the pool or whatever they were doing. And I was out with grown men that I barely knew, just working away all day. But now, I look back at that and I feel like that was a huge piece of why I've been able to create some success for myself. So yeah, it's a lot of hard work growing up was a blessing now.
Right. Maybe one of the decisions that you made to work in an office in place of out on.
I used to get introduced a lot to the county guys that I would be owning the company someday, and I'd always say I will not be involved in the asphalt business. I'm very thankful for the lessons that it taught me, but I knew it wasn't really what my heart was in. So
right.
The HR side of me, there's bells going off here. Working 80 or 90 hours under 18. There
wasn't a lot of rules back then, I don't think, or they just didn't follow them.
Yeah, I had a farm background myself, and it was the same thing. As quick as you could operate a piece of equipment, you did it, and you were out in the fields all day and late at night, and whatever it took to get the job done.
Yep, you're treated as one of the guys. Right. It wasn't kid stuff anymore.
No.
Yep. I'm sure you got a heck of an education, though.
Yeah, definitely learned
Whether
a lot.
you wanted it or not, it was there for you.
Good and bad.
Yep. So we have a question that we like to ask all of our guests here. Do you have a morning routine?
I do. Most mornings I get up at 4:30 and at the gym by 5 and try to get a good workout in before start the day. I feel like that makes me the most productive when I'm able to do that. And I do that most days, but that's been my morning routine for, I don't know, almost 15 years now. So
wow.
Awesome. What are some of the, just curious, what are some of your benefits of doing that? Do you find more mental clarity or just kind of sets the framework for the day?
I feel like it's when I do compared to when I do and the days that I don't, the energy level through the day is just through the roof. Like
Right.
I get home at 6 and I'm loud and my wife's like quiet. I'm still sleepy and I'm like, I'm just ready to go. And whatever the day has for me, I'm ready to do it.
Right.
So especially
Right.
for stress, it's hard to go like when I get stressed out, but when after the workout, I don't know, I feel a lot better. I feel like
Right.
there's a lot of power in moving your body.
Oh, absolutely. Just there's a lot of studies that show the benefits of it as well.
Yep.
We like to ask everybody some rapid fire questions. These are questions that you didn't necessarily get, and they're just fun little questions, kind of be an icebreaker. And often we learn something about our guests that way. What is your cell phone wallpaper?
It's my kid jumping his dirt bike.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. My son, he races motocross about every weekend, so we're dirt bikes are a big part of our life.
Okay. We've got a guest we had on and a friend from that I would say I met back in the 80s from Fort Dodge that raced a lot. I'm sure you probably know him, but he raced
Sure, I probably do.
he raced professionally for a while. So
Yeah, I probably know who you're talking
yeah,
about.
still rides a lot. So it's kind of interesting how we hadn't spoke in probably 30 years and reconnected again recently. So
I
Yep.
have a 9-year-old son, and he's can ride a bike. He thinks he wants a dirt bike. I'm not sure that's
yes, every kid should have a dirt
where
bike.
he's at yet.
That was the one thing as a child I wanted more than anything was a dirt bike, and it took me too many years to get one. But
Yep.
I still enjoy motorcycles tremendously. But
Yeah.
I feel like my heart would be in my throat as a mom watching your 9-year-old. Well, even as a dad, I mean, but watching your 9-year-old flying in the pack when they're racing.
Yeah, it gets in. They're flying now, so it's after the last race of the day. It's like 50 pounds of weight comes off my shoulders. I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
thank God we're going home. Like, yeah,
uh,
so
All right, one more for you. What's the best thing that your company does?
we provide very detailed care to our residents who live with us. We're a 16 bedroom assisted living memory care, so we have really high staff to resident ratio. So we're able to like provide super detailed care. We get to know our residents. We do a lot of memory care, so when they become nonverbal, we still know their likes, dislikes. The families are in here every day, so we're much more of a family-centered home than a large facility. So we're just able to really care for people on a personal basis really well.
so I sit on a hospice board, and are you guys like doing hospice care as well, or is that a little before that you're getting involved?
We get involved before that, but we do have hospice comes in. So
Okay.
we try to take anybody that moves in with us, we try to go all the way through the end of life with them if we can get the waiver from the state. So,
Okay.
yep.
But you're really just doing not so much. I know they have like a lot of these larger facilities will have like cottages around the outside that's, minimal care, but you're doing more once they need full-time attention. That's when they're coming to your facility.
Yep. Anything from the activities, daily living, all the way through, wheelchair bound to,
Okay.
yep. So
Interesting.
we do pretty high level care right
Yeah.
now.
Seems like a big switch from how you grew up and what you did, involved in construction. So, um,
Yeah,
we'll maybe dive into that a little bit more later
sure.
on that question. What is a piece of advice you'd give yourself as a younger person?
I think I would say, like if you got an idea or, something really passionate about doing, I think the biggest just block is just kind of your mindset and just not having enough grit or determination to stick with that idea and see it all the way through to see if it'll actually work or not. I think I've quit too early on projects to see if it was actually going to be successful. So I think just that grit and determination really is super powerful. Even over knowledge, you can learn along the way, but if you give it up too early, it's obviously not going to work out.
Right. Interesting. No, I think too, perseverance is a big deal. I think it's probably an advantage that you were taught, though. There's something that happens at 16 when it's 3 p.m. and you're wore out and tired, but you're not going to quit because you can't. There's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that I think is important, for any young person to learn, and some kids learn it through sports and things like that.
Sure.
They might be hurt and still have to finish a game or something
absolutely
like that.
There's a lot of ways to learn it for sure.
Right.
So why don't we dive into like your educational background and kind of what led you down the path that you took?
Sure. I went to Iowa Central Community College, got my AA there, then moved on to the University of Northern Iowa, and it was electronic media. I didn't know what to go to school for. I was a electronic media major, then ended up my my senior year is kind of where I guess all the story really starts. Had 2 classes left to finish, and then I was just super sick for months and months, like 3 months or a little longer. I had to go back to Fort Dodge and get. I remember they gave me Levaquin. I remember it's still the drug, but ended up going to work. Over here, I was working at a machinery place, just kind of servicing machinery when I would have availability from school, and got real sick over there and passed out on a workbench. And I felt like I got caught sleeping on the job. But the foreman knew I had been sick, so he told me to go to the hospital now, or he was going to take me. And then that was where I went to Satori here in Cedar Falls, and that's where they diagnosed me with AML leukemia. So that's kind of where my education ended, and then where like the story, I guess, kind of began of how I got into assisted living. So
what was whenever you hear that word, it's a scary word, and it seems like we all know people that are affected by cancer and leukemia and things like that. What was that whole process like for you? I mean, if you can kind of walk us through it, just the mental and emotional part in the beginning, hearing that. I take you to be a type of person that's a fighter.
Yeah. So I guess I can start from the beginning there. They told me I went to Satori, or actually I went to urgent care, then to Satori. But urgent care, they told me to pack a bag and go to the hospital. So I was like, oh Lord, what does pack a bag mean? So I went over there and they diagnosed me, and I was just sitting there kind of processing that they thought what was happening. And they didn't want me to call my parents because they were an hour and a half away. Didn't want them to drive fast over there, but kind of like processing. It was almost like I was so sick for so long. It was almost like a relief that, all right, we know now we have an answer to what's going on, because it's just been like, we don't know. And so that was a bit relieving. And then ignorance is bliss, because I had no idea what AML leukemia was. I had no idea what the future looked like for treatments or what was going to happen. So, I was thankful for, because it was hell.
So would you explain what that is, just for listeners, so they know what you were dealing with?
Yep. So AML leukemia is a fast-moving blood cancer. So, yeah. So,
is it commonly curable? Not necessarily.
It's curable. Yes. I don't know like the percentage of people that have it that get cured. I did know some people at the same time going through the same situation that I was in, and they unfortunately did not make it through it. So I know it was a long road of treatments, and I can get into that if you want to hear about all that.
Go ahead and talk to us a little bit about that, because I think I see an approach that people take when they get a diagnosis like that. And, I've seen friends and clients that they get that diagnosis and they kind of have the same response if they've been sick that you've had.
Mm-hmm.
Like, now we know what we're dealing with. We know what we're going to fight now.
Yeah.
No
And
plan.
yet there seems to be some folks that once they get that diagnosis, like they hear that word and it's just like now they make preparations for the end. And I guess that's a little bit of what I'd like to key in on, because to me, I everybody's in their own situation and has, sometimes they find out too late, but often I see the attitude of how that person approaches really that disease, certain things in life, how they're going to conquer those obstacles. So what was your mindset from the beginning? It was just like, I'm young, I'm going to do this, or was there a process or somebody that helped encourage you on that path?
Oh yeah. I mean, my mindset, in the beginning, I was, well, I never thought I could get sick or get hurt, or never cared about anything of that. I was about, living my life, without any regard to illness or whatever. So, hearing it, I was like, well, we're just gonna, I know it's curable. We'll get through these treatments. Pretty much, like, this can't kill me.
Right.
Yeah.
But I at the time I just had started dating my wife now, but we just were like maybe 4 or 5 months into dating. So she would she was there all the time, and it was she was, I mean, yeah, just definitely my rock during all of that, because it was a lot of time in the hospital, and she would come up any free time she had. When she was in college still, could have been out doing whatever, and she was always up at Mayo Clinic with me. So it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, that helps to have a good support, I'm
Yeah.
sure, in that whole
Yeah, and
process.
my parents were there, my grandparents were there. I had a really good support team, whether I wanted them there or they wanted to deal with me, because I was not very pleasant.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
You're,
it was.
so was it painful?
There was some parts that were extremely painful. Yeah, I would not recommend to have a bone marrow biopsy
Oh.
unsedated. That was the most pain I've ever felt in my life. They push a needle through your hip, and like 5 people held me down and then pushed a needle through my hip twice.
Could
That was
you
when they first diagnosed me in Cedar Falls.
Oh,
So that
gosh.
was
could you not
that
be
was.
sedated for that?
Yeah, you come to find out, yeah, you can. I just I didn't know. So
Oh, wow. You'd think
and
they'd
I've
give you
had
that option.
yeah, I didn't know the option existed. Again, they ignorance.
Yeah.
they came in and wanted to do a bone marrow biopsy. I was like, all right, let's do it. And
And that
then
was before your parents had arrived?
yeah, yep. So I should have understood what biopsy meant and bone
Right.
marrow, but I wasn't really putting things together.
Well,
But
when you're hit with news like this and you were young like you were, you needed a support system there. And I think that's something that people need to realize too. You don't have to take on everything, big things
yeah,
like this right out of the gate. So I am kind of surprised that they had you hold off from calling your parents.
yeah, yep, yep. So, but
Interesting. But how long was the time frame that you spent in the hospital and recuperating? I mean, was that 12 months, or what were you looking at?
yeah, so I went in I had 7 rounds of chemo. I believe it was 7 rounds of chemo. 1 round of chemo is 7 days, 24 hours a day. You're hooked up. I had a Hickman in my chest, so it was just hooked up to a line. Took it everywhere. I mean, I didn't for the first month. I didn't leave the hospital. Lived in there. Then I was able to get out for like a week, then back in for a month, and kind of in and out for those. In and out for that year or so, but never really left Mayo. I think I left Mayo in Rochester maybe just a few times and went back to Fort Dodge, but the hospital didn't really want me to go too far away, because there'd be some complications that would just come out of nowhere, and it was pretty hectic at times. So I'd get admitted pretty quickly.
What advice would you give to somebody that is just getting that same diagnosis, not necessarily maybe the type of yours, but get,
Sure.
a cancer, leukemia diagnosis?
I've always said to anybody that's kind of going through it, there's still so much life after cancer. So it's not the end. You just gotta, like that support system is so important, and just trying. It's super tough, but trying to just, stay positive and kind of, know there is a future. It doesn't, not necessarily the end when you get that diagnosis.
It's interesting. About probably 5, 6 months ago, I had dinner with a friend of mine that battled and I don't know I couldn't tell you what type, but he battled it for almost 2 years, and he's recovered now. Interestingly enough, it was to the point for him. I know he just said, if it hadn't been for people that I knew loved me and were supporting me, I'd have gave up.
Yeah.
But he said it was those people that were there constantly, wife, kids. He goes, that's the only reason I kept fighting. And he goes,
Yep.
it's really easy to, he goes, most people don't get so sick in other ways that they're just willing to give up. But that's
Yeah.
what really carried him through. He goes, there were months, he said, I was like, they passed and I didn't even know. It's like I'd basically come to and go, oh, really? This amount of time has passed? You're kind of in a subconscious there, I guess. So,
Yep. Yeah. It's just try to get through every day. And then, so that was, that the 7 weeks of chemo, like I said, but then me and my wife moved out to Steamboat, Colorado. She finished up her intern. I'd always loved Colorado, loved the mountains, loved snowboarding, and we were fortunate enough to live out there for about a year. And then we moved back to Fort Dodge. Found out she was pregnant, and I was supposed to not be able to have children after that, being infertile. But lo and behold, first child was on the way. So we're like, well, we better get our crap in line, and I was literally snowboarding and fly fishing every day. It was it was pretty amazing. So I said, I better probably get my life together and figure something out. But so we came home and started working for the family business, just to figuring out our future. And then my grandparents, we had a fly fishing trip planned in Rochester, in the area of Rochester, and I had to go up for a checkup. And I remember the doctor came in and she was crying, and I was like, I obviously will never forget this, but she was crying. I was like, she could have, she didn't. I could have waited. I always wait in the hospital for hours. I could have waited another 10 minutes. She could have took care of her personal matters, before she came in, and then she just stared right at me. I was like, yeah, it was terrible. So I relapsed is what happened.
oh no.
Yeah.
Not the news you were expecting.
So that one was a real kick in the stomach there, because I was healthy, so active, felt great. Then so that fly fishing trip didn't happen, and I went home or went back to the camper and packed my bags and went back to the hospital.
And then you did the same type of treatment again, or did they mix that up?
Yeah, it was
bit?
another 7 weeks, and then like, I don't remember how many rounds of full body radiation, then like 5 or 6 spinal taps, injected chemotherapy into my back because they found cancer in my spinal fluid, and then prepped for all that. Thank God everything went well there. So then we prepped for a stem cell, and then I had my stem cell like 10 or so days after my daughter was born.
Okay. So the relapse, I can just tell from the emotion in your face, was probably more difficult for you almost yet than the first news, because you felt you'd probably conquered it. So it's such an emotional roller coaster. But you bring up the stem cells, something that's becoming a lot more popular. Do you
Yep.
credit that a lot to the healing that you ended up with?
Oh yeah, that saved my life
Okay.
for sure. Yeah, that was um, I was extremely fortunate. I had two perfect matches and one that was just one off. And the guy's name is Mark Kuhn, actually, who was able to donate and save my life for that. So always thankful for that stem cell transplant that he was able to provide.
Separately, I'm Gage.
And I'm Bontrager.
Together, we are Gage Bontrager Consulting.
We work on changing your mindset,
Developing leaders,
building systems and processes
helping you grow personally and professionally
to achieve the success that you want personally and professionally.
however you choose to define success for you.
Reach out to us and follow us on social media or look us up on the website, and that will put you on a path to achieve what is missing in your life.
Thanks for watching this episode of Mindset Growth Podcast.
That's interesting. I just, we hear more and more about stem cells and the treatment that they do. And I think there's a lot of cures can come out of that from what I see. So from that point on, you've been fine then.
Yep. So there's a lot of, you get your body kind of fights the stem cell. I have nothing to complain about. I'm here, but there's a lot of, call it graft versus host disease. So your body's kind of trying to fight that transplant, but I had some issues going on for it took about 5 years for everything to kind of settle down after that. But a lot of mobility issues. I lost all my tear production. So they removed all my tear ducts permanently because my body doesn't make very many tears at all. So, but I turned purple for a while. It was really weird. I remember I was in Fairway some days. A lady asked why I was so dirty. I was like, I didn't even know what she was talking about. I was like, oh, because I'm purple. I was like, oh. But it was just, yeah.
But your body,
no complaints.
But your body was already depleted and beat down from.
Yeah, I think I went in there hospital like 173 pounds, came out like 110. So
oh my gosh.
I was blow away in a little gust of wind.
Yeah, my gosh. Well, it's awesome to have you come through all that. I just want to inspire folks listening to this, if they get in, ever are faced in life with fighting that same disease, it's mentally, I think, a bigger fight than it is about anything else, is what I keep hearing from people.
Yeah, absolutely. I always remember in the hospital, I was just beat down, mentally destroyed, and there'd be 80-year-old women, same treatment as I am, just drinking coffee and happy. I'm like, gosh, they're so tough. I'm such a wuss. All the time.
Right.
It was crazy.
So you go ahead. Oh, you had mentioned that this experience is what kind of helped segue you into assisted living and doing what you're doing today. And the thing that I find unique is that you're so specialized in the care that you do, because we've also had a guest on that does adult daycares, which is clearly in a different state, before they're quite to the condition that they're at with you. And he's just was sharing with us a lot of the benefits of just, even though people maybe are dealing with some dementia, of having regular activities, right meals, and just interaction with other people, and how some of those people actually gain weight and some cognitive function and things like that, with just, rather than sitting at home waiting for their kids to come back home from work and feeling completely useless. But you're at a bit of a different stage than that. But talk to us a little bit as you went through this path. I can understand how medical would certainly intrigue you, but what was that process then?
Sure. So I got out of, got healed up, and I still stayed in the trades for a while. I was doing flooring, custom tile showers. I apprenticed with a guy for a few years and went on my own doing that. And that that enabled me to start buying some rentals and some property. And then I started taking some of those houses and renting them to different companies that serve people with disabilities. So we'd have 3 or 4 women, men living in one house with a full-time staff. So I saw that kind of smaller care because they were living in larger multifamilies and they were trying to kind of break it up to get them in, more connected in communities and just not so big a group homes. So that's where I saw that smaller scale, care. And then I went and toured some houses down in Arizona, really small assisted livings and in the neighborhoods down there. And then I came back and there's a couple properties that existed that were similar to what I was trying to create. But other than that, it was, your only option was a large facility, with a connected memory care to it, or just large corporation owned companies. So I felt like, the need was there. I felt like the product didn't exist yet in our area. So I just went after it, and a lot of things came together that should have never came together. Had absolutely everything financially against me, everything education wise against me, staffing me. I didn't have anybody. I had just had an idea, and I just kept telling everybody that I knew what I was going to do. And majority of the times was the largest eye roll you'd ever seen in your life. And I was determined to make it happen. So this 1,000 pieces came together, and it took the first project start to just close of the property was 540 days. So it was,
oh gosh.
and that was just when I started working with the bank, not
breaking ground
before, everything else that it took. So it was a grind to get it going, but it's been amazing. It's been amazing to meet the families. It's been amazing to hear back the feedback from the families on our care level. Our Google reviews show a lot about us. Our families are on there. It's, we've created something pretty special in our area that didn't exist before. So
was your original goal more of a, if I build it, they will come, or you wanted to be part of the process with the families from the beginning?
Yeah, I didn't have any families prior to building. I didn't know anything. I got asked that question a lot. Do you have a waiting list? I'm like, we didn't have any list while we were building. So it was pretty much the Field of Dreams build there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I'd like for you to explain a little bit is you talk about memory care. Can you define that a little bit for the audience?
Yeah, memory care, there's short term, there's all different kinds of memory care. Dementia is kind of just a lot of symptoms of memory care. So our residents are, some just have very short term that, just have basic memory loss, can't find things in the room. Some of our residents can't talk anymore. So there's a huge scale to memory care, and we kind of operate from the very beginning with, the short term all the way to no longer even verbal. They can't speak anymore, don't make any sense of, can't carry conversation. So it's a lot of, and then there's mobility issues that come with that, and a lot of other problems that arise with in the memory care.
Okay.
So, and then also there's, frontal, I can't remember the verbiage right now, but there's memory care that causes, behavior problems, and we deal with a lot of all that. So.
What do you, is it like a waiting list now? What do you see happening a little bit in the future of this? Are you building more of these as time goes, or are you just happy with where you're at and situated in Fort Dodge?
Well, we are in Cedar Falls.
Okay.
But we just built I'm sitting in our new building that's not open yet. So we did just build another 16 bed directly next door to our current property. No waiting list. we've kind of found, sorry, I take that back. We do have one person that wants to move in once we get this through the state fire. But normally we don't see a lot on waiting lists for memory care. It seems to be kind of it's looking, and then, oh, we need to do something last week, so we need to move quick. So it's a lot of families that come back to town and see their mom or dad or grandparents and realize, wow, they've been living in some pretty horrific conditions, not necessarily dirty or anything, but just unsafe conditions in their homes. So normally it's an urgent matter where they need quick placement.
Go ahead.
Do you have anybody that does any in-home care as well, or is it all on the property there?
Yeah, we do not do any home care. It's all here on the property.
So you've got sales must be a pretty strong thing for you. I mean, you enjoy sales. You seem like you must be a persuasive, persistent person to be able to push all this through.
Yeah, I mean, from the beginning of this project till now, I think anybody that works for us, they're selling the company, but they believe in what we're selling. I believe this is a really great option. It doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily a great option for everyone, but the people that move in, that need the extra attention, extra help, it's an absolutely fantastic product for them. So I think it's easy to sell it when we 100% believe it's, a really good product.
Right.
So this is my question for you. I'm confused on how you go from, I have this idea because I see the need, to getting the loan, starting the build, but actually starting the business side of it, getting the help in there that you need. How does that all work?
I had started some other small businesses, so I understood, some basic business stuff. But I did an SBA loan with the first building, and that was that was unbelievably complex with what I was trying to do. But I was able to get it done. I had to raise some money for the first building, and working with architects, doing the drawings, and then the staffing. That our director, who is also a partner, she was working at a competitor locally for 12 or so years, so I had to pitch her multiple times before I could get the bank financing on this idea that she thought I was crazy to even try. But 4 years in now, she is loving life. So, but
so
yeah,
this is
if that kind of answers your question,
So you've only done this for 4 years?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 years July will be open.
Okay. Wow. And building the second facility. So do you see this going on like in other cities, other states, or are you just satisfied with fulfilling the need locally?
Good question. Sometimes it's hard to shut off my head and not think about the future or expansion. Right now our main goal is to get this one up and operating as well as our first one. So it's going to be a learning curve, doubling our size as a company. And, but yeah, once we accomplish that, I might kind of assess local areas, and learned a lot. And I feel like, building two of these at a time would be the way to go, the way to operate it instead of one. So I think you can hire the right personnel, offer the right pay, and be competitive in the market with being, 32 beds and 216 separate assisted livings, and still manage really small detailed care. So kind of it's in the back of my head, but we got a lot of stuff to do this next year to get up and running and breathing again.
I have a question for you, because what I'm learning is that you have had a lot of small businesses. You grew up in a family business, and now you're in basically healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
So what I run into, and Heather and I work a lot with contractors, and just other small businesses as well. But we work a lot in the construction industry with just consulting and things like that. And I'll hear people that they're like, but my business is different than everybody else's. And I frankly don't see that, because it just, the same things play out in every scenario. But what is your experience, because you've been in construction from excavating and paving all the way through, tile to now this. When it comes down to the business basics, your human capital, financially, all of those things, how do you see are there a lot of differences, or do you see them all very similar?
I hope I'm understanding correctly, but I think like what's worked for me is like I've been fortunate to work with just great companies. Like I've known, but I think the thing that makes them great and that makes partnerships work is, like your word it means so much. Like if, the follow through, the communication, like just like owning what you said was going to happen. And it's just like our contractor, it wouldn't have been possible if the contractor we have, he did some favors in the beginning that were incredible. And, I followed through on my word after the fact. It's just, that just being a good person through saying and doing, you can't over promise and under deliver.
Right.
You have to, follow through. So,
right. I guess but the question I have is then from, let's say, construction to healthcare, are there a lot of differences that you see in operating that business? Or does it come back to the people are the same, you got the same things?
Yep. I feel like it's a lot of similarities. Obviously processes are different, but it's the same thing with communication. We get praised all the time from local hospitals that our communication's great here. If we missed it, we call them right back. Like it's so key. Things are moving fast, medications and everything being ordered, and on their end as well, we expect the same. They expect, that from us. I feel like that's same with construction. If you're scheduled to be there at 8:00 because this got to be done, you're already scheduling the next week for the finish guys to come in. Right. So all of it is there's different things going on, but I think the process is the same. You have to try to whatever you're saying is you're doing, it has to get done.
Right.
So
right. Well, that's just interesting. I just wanted to kind of get your take on that. I feel like people often feel like they're on an island with their business and there's nobody to relate to or to communicate with.
Yeah.
And I don't really see that. At the end of the day, your financials are going to be very similar. You're going to have some different line items, of course. Human capital comes back into play. It's the culture you build in your business, that's going to really shape the customer service and interactions there. And then just processes and procedures that you install. So we see a lot of similarities in that regard as well. If you're going to give advice to a young business owner today, what would that advice be?
You just brought it up when you said that, the culture is probably the biggest key to the puzzle. Like if for us, if our staff isn't getting along together and working as one, the residents' care is going to be terrible. The residents can feel the tension, whether they're not verbally arguing, but they can feel it. So like creating that culture and making sure it's a good working team that's a huge key for how we operate. And it was the hardest thing we had to do. We opened up in the middle of COVID, so it was trying to hire anyone and everyone that came in. So culture wasn't even on our radar. It was just trying to get bodies in the door to help us operate. And so we had a lot of culture fixing to do after we kind of came out and the hiring got better. But right now our culture is amazing and cares are awesome. families are very happy. So
Good. That's interesting.
That is really interesting. That's a whole other episode all on its own, trying to start a business where so many, during COVID, while so many of them are closing down and quarantining everybody
yeah,
within the building. So,
Right.
wow.
yeah, it was interesting times.
I'm sure it was. What have you seen? You've been in it for a couple years, but have you seen any like improvements or changes that have come along with the memory care?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot more smaller buildings get built for memory care. In larger cities, there's I have some friends that operate in other states. They do the same kind of the same small scale, but they build these in 2 and 4 packs, and they some are memory care, some are Parkinson's, some are assisted living. So they're large communities, but still small buildings. So they're getting that really small, detailed care and personalized care. So I feel like we're going to see a lot more small communities built instead of the large, one box checks all, or one, they're going to get more detailed, and I think the care is going to get a lot better. So, not saying it's bad, but I think I think these smaller communities are going to be a lot more. We'll see them a lot more around. So, I've talked to some larger operators that own large corporations, and I think they're getting on board with these building small. So,
Yeah, that's great. When you speak with a family member that has watched their loved one disintegrate, their memory go, they don't remember who they are anymore. And then you see them sitting in those larger facilities and your heart aches for them because they're alone
mm-hmm.
and they don't. So I love this idea of the smaller community and the more family oriented feel that you're putting out there.
Yep. Yeah, when I was in the hospital, I had a number. That's how I'd check into every appointment I had, and tell them my number. And that was always kind of my slogan here. That I'd always, we'd promote that we don't use numbers here. That everybody has a name. So, and we all know their names.
Right.
So,
how involved are you in the day to day?
I'm here about every day. I working on the business, sometimes working in the business. I do whatever it takes. So
yeah,
some days I'll be plunging the toilet. Some days I'll be working on marketing. So we're having a big shift right now with hiring. So my job will change a little bit now. We're hiring some more key personnel, but I enjoy being here. I enjoy, seeing what's going on, and kind of like to come in and feel the energy, what's been happening. And, I feel like I like working alongside the caregivers, and it's, I feel like lead by example. I'm not afraid to do anything that it takes to, get the job done. So.
Do you have one child?
3 kids now.
3. Wow, that's great. Do you bring your kids in to help cheer the mood and get the feel of love for
my
the elderly?
14-year-old will volunteer here working because
not 80 or 90 hours, right?
Apparently can't pay his kids to work anymore. She'll come in and do some cleaning and hanging out with the residents. And once kids are out of school, the kids are here all the time. Our director's kids are here all the time. There's dogs here all the time. Yeah. There's something always going on. So
dogs is part of your therapy now?
Yeah, we have dogs, and they do cat therapy. We have our Hartman Reserve. They bring animals in. It's we have 2 activities every day, and music and crafting, and it's just it's something to try to keep everybody active for the most part. Exercising, just we don't like people just to sit and watch a movie.
Right.
They can do that after dinner when they're tired. And sometimes I'll hang out with them and do that too.
Right. So, well, anything you'd like to share with our audience before we wrap this up?
Not really. Appreciate you guys having me on.
I appreciate you joining us. I feel like I learned something just about your fight with cancer and hopefully listeners and people that listen to this can be inspired. Stem cells is something that always intrigues me, and the cures that it can provide. So thankfully that treatment was very early in the stages. If you were able to receive it that many years ago, I know the technology in that's grown and improved tremendously over the years, and there's tremendous benefits from it in many aspects. So I just appreciate you taking the time, Luke, to share that with us. And we want to thank you for joining us on Mindset Growth Podcast.